Hello, Author Nation. I am Melody Ann, your host. Author Nation is a community of authors. So if you would like to become a successful nonfiction author, join the community. The link is in the description. In today's video, I want to talk about genre and why it's so important. Let's break it down into planning, producing, publishing, and promoting, and why your genre is important in all of 4 areas. Let's start with planning. Before you start writing, you want to think about what genre you're writing in. This will help you plan your book, because when a reader picks up a book in a certain genre, the reader has particular expectations of that book. Why? Because it's based on a genre. For example, self-help books, they're really expecting advice. They're often expecting some kind of exercise or journaling. Like, you want to give them real do this advice in a self-help book. It's not generalities. A memoir, on the other hand, has the expectation of a focus on a theme, on a specific theme that the author is going to delve into in a personal way to talk about how that theme matters in a universal way. Now, you don't need to know all the details of exactly what exercises you're going to do in a self-help book, or what, all the themes you're going to deal with in your memoir. But you do need to know that this is a self-help book versus a memoir, so that you can understand what the expectations are when you're planning the book. And so you're thinking about that and planning for it. These readers' expectations are called tropes. Tropes are conventions that we use when writing a book. Some tropes you've heard, like, oh, that's a trope, meaning that convention is being overused in this book. So tropes often have this negative connotation, but they actually are good things. They are conventions, reader expectations based on genre. So don't think of tropes as negative. Think of them as reader conventions, and if you're writing in a genre, especially if you're writing for the first time, understand those tropes and how to use them well, not overuse them or underuse them, but how to use them well. All right, in producing, those tropes help you stay on track when you're writing the book, and not just when you're writing it, because a lot of times when people write, they get stuck in, is this the right trope? Is this right? Is this the right word? Is this the right sentence? But you want to get all your information out. But then when you come back and you start revising and you start editing, you can look at your book through that lens of genre to help you form it, right? To help make sure it's all the information is there, it's all in the right order, and you have the conventions that your readers will be expecting in that book. So when it comes to producing, it isn't necessarily in the writing part of the production, but in the revising and editing part of the production. In publishing, obviously, your genre. You want your book to sit with other books in the same genre on the same shelf. Because if I'm wandering through looking for a memoir, I'm going to go to the memoir section. And if you understand what your genre is, then you're going to get your book in the right place. And that doesn't matter whether you're in a physical store or in a digital store. They still in some ways sit beside each other, even in a digital store. People have read this book who've also read this book, or people who've bought this book who also bought this book. You want it to be in the right thing, because part of the algorithm is using that genre, or those, in what they often say as categories, which is a narrowing down of genre. When you're publishing the book, you want to have it in the right categories so that people can find it, in the right genre so people can find it. And although this is done largely during the publishing stage, it's going to be a big help when you get to promoting. Talking about promoting, when you are promoting your book and somebody says, oh, you wrote a book, what is it? If you say, oh, I wrote a memoir, versus I wrote a self-help book, just that word, memoir, it gives the person you're speaking to a lot of information about the book you wrote. Or if you say, I wrote a self-help book, that gives the people that you're talking to a lot of information about that book. And so it really helps people orient to exactly what to expect from you. And if they love memoirs, if you say, I wrote a memoir, and they love memoirs, then obviously they're going to be interested. And from there, what kind of memoir? Oh, I wrote a coming-of-age memoir. I wrote a travel memoir. I wrote a memoir about grief. And then you start talking about the theme and narrowing it down. People are like, oh, you wrote a travel memoir. Those 2 words, so much information right in those 2 words. And that's the kind of thing you want when you're promoting. You want to be able to use just a couple of words and people go, oh, I love travel memoirs. And then they want to know more. Whether they are looking at your book on a shelf because here's where all the travel memoirs fit, or whether you're talking to them at a book sale or a book festival, having those words really, really useful. Sometimes people write cross-genre. And so I, for example, had a client who wrote a memoir that was part self-help. And so although it was about her journey through cancer, she also gave some advice, and in the back she actually had a toolkit for people who were also going through a cancer diagnosis and fighting cancer at the time. So if you're talking about a book and it's cross-genre, you can say, I wrote a memoir that has a self-help aspect. And again, that's a lot of information right there in just those couple of words. Are you planning a book right now? Start thinking about what genre you're writing in and what that means in the planning, producing, publishing, and promotion for your book. That will definitely help you through your author journey. The other thing you can do is go grab the planning checklist, and that will help you write the right book, plan it well. It'll make the journey easier and more successful. All right, keep writing. We'll see you next time.